Good Monday morning, and thanks for listening to my musing this week about the Noonday Demon. I don't know when the last time you talked about a demon was, but today is your day. There's a wonderful book that I read whenever I was an undergraduate by Kathleen Norris. The name of that book is Acedia and Me. In some ways, it's a memoir, but it starts with the writings of a 4th century monk named Evagrius, who talked about acedia, or the noonday demon. When I think about what that demon might be, it's a shot from a movie where a student knows he or she gets out of school at 3 o'clock, and in those last 10 minutes, the second hand barely seems to move. You're frozen in place. Some people have said acedia, or the noonday demon, is a regular part of the day where we feel depressed, apathetic, stuck. And I don't know about you, but while we've been socially distanced, safer at home, the sense that we can be productive, or the sense that we are depressed, even for just a little bit of the day, it's a real thing, isn't it? I wonder, for us, when we don't talk about demons affecting us, but we talk about depression, literally being flattened. What do we lose in the change of that language? As people of faith, are there skills available to us, not for the big kinds of clinical depression, but for the little kinds of apathy, the little kinds of exhaustion, that we might be able to use tools in our faith's tool belt that help us to combat these feelings that there's nothing we can do, that we are stuck. So I wonder, by faith, by practices, by spiritual exercises, are those a part of the toolkit that helps us to combat the apathy that we might feel, especially now while we are safer at home or socially distant? I want you to consider what it means whenever it seems like the clock has stopped moving, that there's no way forward for you, no progress to be made, or that you're simply not finding the energy or the attention to move about your day. If you want more tips or more help, I encourage you to listen to the longer form of this Monday musing today. Otherwise, put Kathleen Norris on your reading list and be on guard for those noonday demons, something that comes at you just about siesta time each day. How do we guard against it? How does faith keep us active and productive? So the book begins in this way. You probably are familiar with hearing that there are 7 deadly sins, one of those being sloth. But before there were 7 deadly sins, there were 8 bad habits. In so many ways, thinking about the ways that demons affect us, we need to move to a time before the sins that we commit are deadly and they are something that we do outside of the norm. Before, sins were something we did that's outside of our standards, something that the community discourages. Sin was something that affects all people almost all the time, which is why sloth is something that's common to all of us at one point or another. And so before there was sloth as one of the 7 deadly sins, there was acedia as one of the 8 bad habits. And imagine it this way. You've had a nice big lunch, the sun is hot, and you're a monastic. You are supposed to go right back to your work. You're supposed to pray, but somehow you can't stay focused on your task. You can't keep from looking out the window, dreaming about your next meal, or remembering the meal that you had. There's something that gets you stuck, where the sun seems frozen in the sky and there's nothing to do and you can't summon the energy to do anything. That's the noonday demon. That's acedia. And even though Evagrius talks about that as a problem around the middle of the day, Kathleen Norris is great because she talks about the extended periods where we are apathetic, where we know bad things are happening around us. We know the energizing things that we should be invested in are happening around us. But somehow we just can't summon the energy to be engaged. I wonder in those moments, what is going on for us theologically, whether explicitly on the front of our minds or way down deep or in the back of our minds? What is it that makes you clean your office rather than getting to the project that you had that was next on your to-do list? I think that's part of the NoonDay Demon's trickery, that we would do a million things rather than get to the task that we know we really should be doing. Some people call this depression, and I like that Kathleen Norris notes that when we talk about clinical depression, we talk about being flattened, literally. What keeps you flat? Where do you struggle to have ups and downs in your days and in your attitudes? The life of faith calls us to these ups and downs, to be present in every moment, even when the so-called noonday demon, or even when acedia comes knocking at our door, trying to hold us down from the ways that we can be engaged with the world around us. Do you feel that there's a tedium to your day? Do you feel like you're on a hamster wheel, turning and turning, but not really going anywhere? That's another one of the noonday demon's tricks. And I wonder, when we get so busy, when we've been running on the hamster wheel for so long, if we struggle to find the energy to do the things that we feel called to do, the things that bring us joy and fulfillment and satisfaction, we need to rethink how we're looking at the whole of our days, the whole of our weeks, and how we choose to expend our energy. Of course, there's a tedium to every job. Of course, in most days, at least for me, there are things that I would rather not be doing. But what I think our faithful tool belt teaches us, the tool that we have, is attention. And I know I've talked about attention before. Can we, in the small tasks and the small moments that we have, find ways to imbue grace and imbue compassion in our tiniest details? I think that we attack the noonday demon, or depression, or acedia, in some ways by knowing that the small things, the small moments, also matter. So in those seconds, right before the school bell is supposed to ring, when we're looking out the window, trying to imagine what it is we're supposed to do, can we find ways to fill those moments with ways of being thoughtful, mindful, compassionate? I get a lot of emails each day, and I understand the reason when we're firing off an email quickly that we abbreviate, or we are not writing the most formal letter with a dear so-and-so or a yours truly, Pastor Jacob. But in those small moments, to keep us from feeling tedium, can we recognize the opportunities that we have to act in gracious and compassionate ways? Maybe you handwrite one note a day rather than sending an email. Maybe you call instead of text. Maybe you find one way to add one word to an email that you otherwise would abbreviate, to tell how much you care for other people who are around you. I think that's an affront to feeling that every email we have is a tedium, or every voicemail that we have to listen to is a drag on our day. We have to consider that those are opportunities for deep listening, that every email is an opportunity to connect to other people. And if those are too grandiose for your regular work week, if they're too slow, then just imagine the alternative, that we're constantly revolving, we're constantly exhausting ourselves, so that at the end of the day, right before we go to bed, all we feel is exhaustion, and we feel like we've done nothing important. So in your small tasks, in every moment, can you find some ways to know that the things that you do matter? Because God tells us that we do matter and that we can make a difference And even if we haven't changed all of the world to bring world peace and justice to everyone and everything, maybe in our smallest details, we can bring just a little bit to the work that we do. I think it's awfully hard to imagine that every little thing we do matters on a grand scale. And that's probably right. That's why we need grace for the small moments in the day when we are simply no good and we fail, and that happens, and that's fine. But I do wonder, can we turn the knob a little bit on the ways that we value our failings, the places where we do mess up? There's a great story in the book where there is a mom who wants to prepare the best meal for her kids. And all week she's been thinking about health, and she's been thinking about people's favorite foods. And she wants to have this great weekly family meal. But as the kids are screaming and they've pulled the pots and pans everywhere, as she's dumping store-bought ragu on a box of macaroni, trying to mix it all together, it could seem that she has completely failed. What I'm trying to say to you, what Kathleen Norris told to me, is that those moments are perfect moments too. God does not expect the perfect linens, a noiseless kitchen, or a church service without any crying. That God accepts all that we're able to offer as a small token of the ways that God loves us and the way we return that love. We need to learn as a church that failing is okay. We need to learn, however hard this may come to hear, that we can lower the bar. Because if our bar is perfection, we're not getting over it anyway. So in the quotidian mysteries, that's maybe a new word for you. I love it. In the quotidian mysteries, in the normal, regular things we do, instead of trying to do better, can we just see them for what they are? Grace-filled moments that matter to God and to the people around us. I think that if we are to realize that acedia is a word we can use, an attack that we feel, something that keeps us motionless, something that keeps us exhausted, something that keeps us depressed, the way we combat that is seeing that we are accepted in God's sight. We are meaningful even when we're throwing dinner together at the last minute. Even when we need to invite friends to our house and heaven forbid there's dog hair on the couch and we didn't make the bed, so we're just going to close the door. That's fine. What a wonderful thing to be hospitable. We can see the good and the bad going together. God has told us that we are going to have bad as a part mixed in to what we're doing. That doesn't mean we should overlook the good too. I need to backtrack just a little bit to say depression is a serious thing, sometimes a chemical thing. Praying more doesn't necessarily make depression go away. This is just another tool in the toolbox to help us understand that we matter to God, we matter to the church, we matter to one another. And for all of the ways that we don't feel that, when we feel depressed or we feel that the world is pressing down on us, know that God is working on the side that helps you to know that you're important. Is there a way this week that in the quotidian mysteries, in normal small ways, you can help to build up the church, build up your family, build up your friends by doing something gracious and compassionate? Whatever way you're able to do it, know that it's for the glory of God and for the good of your community. Thanks for listening. Don't feel too bogged down, and I'll see you next Monday.